listen up! Because it's time for part 5 of the Isengard Abridged campaign, where previously we took back some of the stuff we lost to Enedwaith, and then we lost some more stuff to them. Big invasions were on the way in, we met some of them in the field and won a big victory, but there are still plenty of enemy armies walking about in our territory. However, now we're going to switch focus to Rohan because they are attacking Helms Deep. They're coming at us with some ladders and a ram. They also have a decent amount of cavalry, and those guys are going to depend on the ram. If the ram is not successful, the cav will not be able to participate in the battle. So my archers to start with are shooting at the ram pushers. We can't unfortunately use fire arrows or anything like that to try and disable the ram, but we might be able to rout the unit pushing it. Although in reality we can't really do anything. Both because Uruk archers aren't that good, the enemy have shields and stuff and don't really die as they push the ram up, and once they're close, the archers actually can't shoot them anymore. The little wall in front of where you can put archers is high enough that they can only shoot at units that are quite far away. Units below the wall can only be shot with the old shooting arrows straight up technique that does minimal damage and has low accuracy. So here I'm going to micro them to shoot at something further away to make better use of their arrows. But that's bad news, the defences here are actually not helping us very much. At least down at their old Derping wall, the enemy aren't going to have a good time. They've sent their one unit of spears over the wall, but by just having some guys here to kill them as they come over, that's not going to achieve very much, and soon we're able to rout that unit with only a few casualties on our side, and nicely the earlier game's AI lets the units go back down the ladders and escape. If this was a later Total War game, they probably would have just freaked out and tried to run further into our castle and died. Anyway, so that's done, but the ram has opened the gate, so this battle is now going to take place entirely in the gate. We need to try and stop the enemy getting in. They're going to absolutely spam us with their cav, which is actually good because it means their cav will push to the front of the fight, and the fight is against my spearmen. So this will mean we can trade very favourably. However, there's so much cav spamming going on that they can break through entirely. Luckily, I've got a second line with my general, and he can try and stop them as well. And the scouts aren't very good as a straight up melee unit, so we can defeat them easily now that they're stuck in there. I was hoping I would be able to get my archers to deploy onto this wall backwards to shoot straight down into the enemy's blob, but that doesn't appear to be the case. One thing I can try is to go back to the second wall, then they'll be over the top of the fight and maybe we'll be able to shoot forwards into it, so we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, the enemy's cav do get defeated trying to break through here and just gradually being killed, mainly because they weren't very good cav units. We've lost tons of our own troops as well, but our unit at the front is just about holding on. Fighting the enemy's axe troops is harder, but their morale is low. They don't have a general. I think their captain's already dead by this point in the fight. And you can see on the balance bar, if it's just both sides fighting each other in a big mosh, we'll win because our overall power level is higher. But we also have this trick up our sleeve. The archers get onto the second level and start shooting down into the melee, or they don't. Yes, this doesn't work. There's another smaller wall, but it also prevents you from shooting down from that second wall, so they're trying to shoot things outside the castle. And generally, archers have proven to be ineffective at defending these walls, which I guess makes sense given what happened in the films. They didn't really help there either. So the enemy eventually totally rout in this massive mosh in the gateway. I'm continuing the battle here because we were only at 85%, and I thought the rule might be that you need to exceed 85% to kill the enemy army. Plus, we can see this glorious sight of the Rohan forces fleeing from Helms Deep, still occupied by Isengard. There's the eventual result: lost 100 guys, killed something like 1,000, a good defense. But that's not going to be the end of that, because Rohan clearly have plans to take this place back. I guess it's important to them. They're sending more guys to stack up just outside Hornburg, so we are going to have a bit more fighting going on there. There's also a small force at Foldburg. That's more annoying, but it's only small. The Foldburg garrison should be able to take them down. Now we're going to move on to the Enedwaith turn, which I was more worried about, but they do that. Their main army is walking out of our territory. That's a massive relief for us. And there's some more good news at the start of the next turn. Well, not necessarily good news. The One Ring has been located. It's in Minas Tirith. And that's a shame because it's nowhere near us. It's much more likely to get taken by the legit Dark Lord from Mordor instead of Saurman, so we can't usurp his position, unfortunately. And that's only if Mordor actually does beat Gondor. They don't seem to have advanced so far in the campaign. I think they might start with Eastern Osgiliath, so they haven't taken anything. Bad news really, so the One Ring's out there and it's not really going to help us. Rohan's new army coming into Hornburg has loads of heavy cav this time. They're not stacked out with scouts, they've got their Riddermark cav and Rohan riders, which are melee and ranged cav. So we need to put something in Hornburg basically to defend against all this stuff that's going to come in. We've got a garrison at Foldberg which quickly pushes back the nearby Rohan troops, which are nothing special. And after that I moved virtually everything over to Hornburg, presuming that's where Rohan are more likely to attack. Foldberg is very rebellious with nothing left in there, but I can send over these orc fighters I've recruited, a nice trash unit, to sit there and be a good garrison for us. The financial situation means we cannot recruit any more units, so that's it really, just have to make do with what we've deployed and see what happens. Saurman has a chance to move now. That's been afforded by the Enedwaith withdrawal. I'm still unsure whether to trust this. They spent 2 turns walking into our territory and then 2 turns walking back out, so not sure what they're doing, but we're going to gamble on the presumption they'll keep going away, buying us the time we need to do this. We can take this Gwynedd place with Saruman's stack. There wasn't all that much there, so I thought we can just auto-resolve this one and get it over with. We can also pop it in as a night attack as well. We lose something like 100 Uruks. No idea if we could have done better in person, probably could have, but there we go, we've taken the village, and that's going to slightly alleviate the money situation because for some reason this village is worth quite a lot of money. Perhaps the AI upgraded it while it was there using some cheats or something. Also, it completed a mission, which gives us a free unit of berserkers. That's great, because they cost like twice the amount of a usual unit to recruit, so we weren't going to get any of these guys anytime soon. And we can send those berserkers to also garrison Foldberg, and with that, the troops that are there might actually be able to hold if the nearby Rohan forces attack, the small army that is. So that's all good. Now we're going to move over to the Brightness campaign. You might recall I sent a couple of troops to go and try and take it because it was so lightly defended. But some survivors from a battle in the last part that didn't have to be here are now in our way, so we're going to fight them. These are the guys that are only alive because I forgot to get 85% kills in a previous battle, thinking it was 75% for some reason. So now we need to kill them again and get them out of the way so they can't interrupt our siege. Just a little one, of course, because both sides just have a couple of units. So the strategy is to attack those units, and really that's about that. Our Reavers go up against their spears, and our general takes down some Javelineers. I think the only thing I should have done differently is have them go the other way around. That probably would have been a little bit better in terms of distributing combat power effectively. So yes, now we have to wait and see what happens. We do also have a tiny unit with a couple of guys in it, so I can make this not particularly effective looking rear attack. But maybe it's like the later Total War games, where as long as you have one guy behind the enemy, that's considered a rear attack and you get the full morale penalty. Anyway, they grind on for a while, and that's the result. Not the best fight due to the absence of tactics, and losing 50 guys in an army that only had less than 300 guys to begin with could be a big deal. But still, Brightness is barely defended by anything, so we go on to set up that siege. And that was some good experience for Muzzrat here, one of our newer generals. In the Rohan turn, we see a bit of shuffling, but nothing serious. They're still stacking up as if they want to attack Hornburg, but they don't go ahead and do anything, and nothing at Foldberg either, so all is quiet on the eastern front. But with Enedwaith, another army just appears near Brightness. They have an infinite supply of these hidden, very small forces that just show up all the time. So now Muzzrat is under attack. This isn't the worst situation, but I just decided to withdraw without even fully checking what was there. I guess my nerve is broken with that whole situation. But at least their main force is still walking away, so the real danger from Enedwaith is over. So yes, I'm going to fall back with Muzzrat and go try to hide in those trees. I realise we probably need like one more unit to capture that town, especially if you consider the fact that it's going to come down to a fight on a capture point where we need to win by brute force, so we at least need to have the numbers to match the enemy. As for Rohan, we can't really exploit the fact they haven't done anything this turn, unless we move Saruman back to try and reinforce and use that time, but we're not going to do that, as you can see, because with Saruman, I'm going to go on an offensive against Enedwaith, since we need to do something to them. We need to somehow damage them, so I'm just going to try and see how far we can get with that. Then, in Rohan's turn, they do finally bring everything together and go for Hornburg. It's actually the force that was beside Foldberg making the attack, so perhaps Foldberg is safe for now as a result of this. But yes, looks like we're going to have to deal with an attack, but in the next turn they don't go for an assault yet, meaning they're building up siege equipment, so we'll see what they end up with. During that turn, I put an extra unit in Musrat's army, and I was like, is this enough? And went back, but by the time I got back to Bregnus, now there's even more stuff here. Maybe they recruited, or maybe something came from the northwest. So we're not going to go ahead with this second attempt at an attack. I need even more things than this, so we're going to fall back once again, trying to hide. I'm never sure how to hide in Medieval 2, because sometimes it counts, sometimes it doesn't if you sit in a forest. Who knows? At least Saurman has reached his destination with no interruptions. We'll pop out a bunch of rams and get ready to take this place. The enemy prince is inside, so if we can take him down, that will be very nice. I had my diplomat wandering around in Enedwaith's territory, and this provided some insight into perhaps why their main army went home. The Dunlendings are sitting on the border with Enedwaith there. It seems the Dunlendings are threatening to invade, and maybe that's what's got the AI scared, so it stopped attacking me. If that is so, then once again the Dunlendings have saved us. Anyway, now Rohan does go for this attack at Hornburg, so it's a much bigger attack compared to what we faced off earlier, and it's still got tons of cav, so it's going to be very much a battle all about that gateway. They only have a few infantry, and I realised that because the only infantry they have are the guys who were at Foldberg, if we'd just gone out and killed them earlier, this attack would have been delayed. But alas, so let's see what the defences can do for us this time. Like before, this is going to be all about the ram. We need to take down that ram pushing unit, and this time I've got 3 units of archers shooting. However, that's not enough, even with the unit pushing the ram being worse than last time. We aren't going to be able to rout them or really make much of a dent in them at all before that ram reaches the gate. We've also got ladders and a siege tower inbound, but the troops on the walls are easily enough to hold off an attack by like 1 unit, and that's all we can expect, so that's good. With the ram, we're going to do a more drastic measure this time as an experiment. You can see I've ordered my orcs to run out of the castle and stand in the way. So he saw me doing this in a previous battle in this campaign, trying to stop the ram. However, we're going to have the same problem we had in that last battle. We've stopped the ram because we've got the pushes into melee, but the gate doesn't close. You have to be quite far away from a gate that's open to close it, much further than you need to be away from a closed gate to open it. So that means while there is nothing in the gatehouse, the gate will not close, and all we've really done is speed up this battle, because now all of the cav will charge in through that gate, and we're just going to have to face them like before. We do have the orcs outside delaying the enemy a bit, which would be okay if we could be hammering them with arrows while they're out here on the causeway. But that is not the case, so the orcs will just die. They have trash stats, and on hard difficulty they'll do nothing, so we just wait for them to die, and then the enemy will push through the gate. At least the attack on the wall is doomed to fail. They're attacking us with units that are weaker than the things we're defending with, and being on the wall helps out as well. So here they come through the gate. We've still got our spears from last time, but we lost like 100 of them in the previous battle, and that was against fewer and weaker cavalry units, so this time the enemy are guaranteed to break through. But we have more stuff here, including Lurch this time, a max level commander with an experienced bodyguard unit, and they're going to be fine at hacking down enemies. We also have some berserkers in reserve, saving their stamina for now, and one thing that's helping us is that the enemy cav do contain a bunch of those weak scouts and some horse archers in melee, I think. So our little group here is going to be enough to hold off the enemy group. In fact, we hold them off relatively easily, although with technically heavy losses because all of our orcs died, but they're only orcs, Uruks are better, etc. So yes, we take out this group, and the reason this seems to be going so well is on the minimap. The vast majority of the enemy's units are not attacking. We only had to face down like 2 or 3 cav units here. So not really sure what the AI is up to, but by holding their reinforcements back, the battle goes on quite well because we're only facing their first army. We've defeated the enemy on the wall, although these pikes, after getting slaughtered up there by Ugluk, actually reformed over by the causeway to re-attack us. So now I'm just clustering everything in front of the gate, awaiting a massive cavalry charge. There are like 10 units of cav just waiting out there, but so far they're not interested. Those pikes came up and started making a racket over by the ram. I thought they were going to pick it up, but I sent the berserkers out now to just chase these pikes away and kill them. That doesn't really achieve very much. What I was actually trying to do is attack the ram. Look, the gate has closed, it can be done. So yes, rams can be destroyed in melee. I discovered that a few years ago playing a campaign in a hot seat. It's extremely difficult and it seems to be almost an unintended mechanic, but you can do it. Looks like one unit of infantry from the enemy's backup army is on the way. So, if we can take out this ram before they get there, then the enemy won't be able to get in. However, attacking rams seems to have a big RNG element. Most attacks against it don't do any damage, but now and again, your attacks will inflict damage. I guess the ram has a melee defense stat or something. There we go, we got 7% damage with an attack all of a sudden. So after an extremely long time, which luckily we can cut out, and after an extremely long time, we do take down the ram. The collapsing ram can kill your soldiers. I've seen that happen before, but in this case we seem to get away with it. I think it's because berserkers have 2 hit points, so the collapsing ram doesn't actually kill them. Anyway, we did that before those spearmen arrived, so that's that. And I thought now I'll go and quickly destroy the siege tower and ladders as well, which you can also destroy in melee, although as I recall, it's even more awkward and difficult to do. The footage here is messed up for some reason. I think it was because I was moving billions of files off of my hard drive to clear up more space to continue making this recording as the battle was going. But anyway, what happened was that spear unit followed my berserkers over to the siege equipment, so I climbed up the ladders. This drew the spearmen up with them. Now we can just stand here and kill them with help from the other allies hanging out on the wall. What I thought would then happen is I would have to wait until the timer ran out and then I'd win, because the enemy clearly aren't interested in attacking with their reinforcements. But after I've routed this infantry unit, it seems the game recognises that the cav now don't have a way into the castle, and the battle is just cancelled. And there you go, we win. Our losses looked quite large, but that's mostly orcs, as I said, so we'll just not care about them. And overall that was okay. But we didn't wipe out the enemy or anything, so they still have that army out there, and this is really just a delaying action. In terms of strategy, all we're doing is stopping Rohan from conquering us while we go and conquer Enidwaith. If we can defeat Enidwaith and then bring everything back over here, we'll probably have enough money to put an army together that can both defeat Rohan's field armies and take their territories to stop them from respawning. But that's a long time in the future from here. If we could get some more Melkor's Shadow culture here, we could keep some units in Helms Deep for free. It's annoying spending money to upkeep this army which technically isn't doing anything. But if they can't also defeat all of Rohan, then moving them out will probably get them killed out in the field by a bunch of horse archers and heavy cav. So we're playing it safe there. It just doesn't feel like the right thing to do. No idea if it actually is, because I don't know how big Rohan actually is and how possible it would be to conquer them. Anyway, we fall back from Bregnus because it still looks like Enidwaith are too powerful for us to take them on. But over at this place Saurman has under siege, it is go time. The only thing to worry about is that their prince has a decent melee unit. But we have lots of archers, so not necessarily the end of the world. We could even auto-resolve this fight, but we need to do it with minimal losses because we already know there's a much bigger Enidwaith army somewhere around here and it might show up. In this fight I was trying to get the enemy off the capture point, because if we can fight them far away and then kill them as they rout, that'll make this way less grindy and much easier. So some of their archers do pursue my Uruk raiders, who for some reason can't run in this battle. They refuse to run away from the archers. Luckily the archers weren't doing a very good job of firing at their full range. They ran really close to our army, and we got loads of volleys to start off this little skirmish. I sent out my light cav to outflank them, and sent some infantry to attack them from the front, including Saurman himself. They are going to be doing the annoying shoot while in melee trick, but that's fine because they're not going to be doing it for that long. We fight in melee for a bit and they do rout, probably being weak in melee, especially against Saruman's heavy units, but we get exactly what we need. The enemy rout as my light cavalry arrive behind them, so we can kill them all. There's going to be no antics when they go back to the capture point and constantly come back into the fight, and this takes forever. We've done it the quick way. The question is, can we do it with their other units? These ones were much less interested in coming down from this hill. You can see I'm trying to bait them into attacking my light cav, who can easily escape, but they just aren't going to do it. Even after I actually charged into them and then ran away, they just stood there. So we can do this the other way, that is to shoot them while they stand there. This caused a reaction. It seemed like they were going to run down this hill over here. So I'm immediately falling back to make some space for outflanking if we have to fight them down there. but we don't actually. They were just moving about, and they're going to move about on the capture point for a while, so I'm going to spend a while just raining arrows on this capture point to try and get some kills. Eventually the weaker of the two units does come down the hill, and we can easily outflank them with some raiders here. These Enedwaith clansmen have like no stats, they're worse than orcs, the trashiest of the trash, and they get out of there without actually routing. Annoying because I'm pretty sure we could rout them easily away from the capture point, but they are going to be back there for a long grind, and that grind has already started. I've tried to put Saurman at point blank range but out of the melee, so he can crossbow these guys down to avoid fighting the guys with the high melee stats in particular. But this had mixed results because I think Saurman got stuck in the melee pretty soon. Our Beast Slayers outflanked the enemy and put some arrows in there as well. I'm sure I'm killing some of my own men, but it's probably saving more of our own men's lives in the long run doing that. So yes, we're skipping to the result now. We did kill their prince, and we took the settlement, losing about 60 troops. We'll sack the place up, and there we have it. We've taken something from Enedwaith, and this settlement is better than Bregnus. So overall, we are now winning the war. Technically, I think, maybe, possibly. Depends where that big stack we saw is right now, actually. They probably could take this place back, even if I kept all of my troops here. But I don't want to keep all of my troops here, because I need to keep going. We need to defeat Enedwaith somehow. We do have to use yellow strats, because there's no money to make a concerted attack that will definitely work. So we have to just go out with a few troops and see what we can do. We know the enemy have us outstrengthed, but we can do this Sun Tzu style, just try not to fight their big armies and hope we don't encounter them really, and see how much damage we can do before they stop us. Well, why don't you join me next part to see how that goes, and Rohan will be back for more.